Good morning, all of you. Today we shall study the third chapter, Journey to the End of the Earth by Tishani Doshi. If you want to know more about the planet's past, present, and future, the Antarctica is the place to go to. That is Bon Voyage. Bon Voyage. So, here somebody is going to Antarctica and we have to study about that. Early this year, I found myself aboard a Russian research vessel. So, a Russian research vessel was going to Antarctica. The name of the vessel was the Academic Shokalskia. Heading towards the coldest, driest, windiest continent in the world. Antarctica is the coldest, driest, and the windiest continent. And the author Tishani Doshi was on the vessel that was going there, on the ship that was going there. My journey began 13.09 degrees north to the equator in Madras. That is where she had boarded the vessel and involved crossing 9 time zones, 6 checkpoints, 3 bodies of water, and at least as many ecospheres. So the journey was so long that she had to cross 9 time zones, 6 checkpoints, 3 bodies of water means 3 oceans, and many ecospheres. By the time I actually set foot on the Antarctic continent, by, by the time they reached there, I had been traveling over 100 hours in combination of a car, an aeroplane, and a ship. So, in by different mediums, by car, aeroplane, and ship, she had traveled 100 hours. That is more than 4 days. So, my first emotion on facing Antarctica's expansive white landscape and uninterrupted blue horizon was relief. So, after 4 days long journey, when you reach your destination, naturally the first thing was relief when she reached the Antarctica's expansive white landscape and the blue horizon, which was not interrupted by anything. There was nothing else in between. Followed up with an immediate and profound wonder. Horizon is the imaginary line where it seems that the sky and the earth meets. In between, nothing was there. That is why the word uninterrupted is used over here. Wonder at its immensity. It was so immense, so huge that naturally anybody would wonder. Its isolation, it was separated from the whole world, but mainly at how there could ever have been a time when India and Antarctica were part of the same landmass. That was something very surprising, and that had put the author in profound wonder. She was wondering that how is it possible that India was a part of this Antarctica once upon a time. Now history says so. Let us go through the history, part of history. 650 million years ago, a giant amalgamated southern supercontinent. Supercontinent means that something that is more than a bigger than a continent is called a supercontinent. The name of that was Gondwana. Must have studied in 9th standard Gondwana Mass, where the history is given. 650 million years ago, a giant amalgamated southern supercontinent, Gondwana, did indeed exist. Once upon a time, this Gondwana mass was there, centered roughly around the present day Antarctica. And where was it centered? This Gondwana mass was near Antarctica. Things were quite different then. Humans hadn't arrived on the global scene. Human beings were not there. And the climate was much warmer, hosting a huge variety of flora and fauna. A variety of vegetation and animals and birds were there as the climate was warmer. For 500 million years, Gondwana thrived. means it struggled. But around the time when the dinosaurs were wiped out and the age of the mammals got underway, the landmass was forced to separate into countries, shaping the globe much as we know it today. After these dinosaurs became extinct and they were wiped out and the mammals got underway, after that, this landmass, Gondwana, it was forced to separate from a supercontinent to, say, separate countries, shaping the globe much as we know it today. And then the land shapes or the different continents and the countries that were formed are much as we see them today. To visit Antarctica now is to be a part of that history, to get a grasp of where we have come from and where we could possibly be heading. Where we could possibly be heading means in which direction we are going. So we can understand that we have been separated from this Antarctica, and possibly we can also know as to in which direction we are going by visiting Antarctica. It's to understand the significance of Cordilleran folds and Precambrian granite shields, ozone and carbon, evolution and extinction. These are the things that we will be able to understand if we go to Antarctica. That the folds in the earth that take place, then Precambrian granite shields. Granite is a type of a stone, and how those shields are formed. Precambrian means before the Cambrian time. The ozone and the carbon, evolution of human beings, and extinction of certain species, that will be able to understand better. When you think about all that can happen in a million years, it can get pretty mind blogging. When you think about what can happen in 1 million years, when you imagine that, it will be very much mind blogging. Now the author tells us to imagine. Imagine India pushing northwards, jamming against Asia to buckle its crust and form the Himalayas. Now that is how the Himalayas was formed. India was not a part of Asia, but it started drifting, that landmass started drifting. There was a Tethys Sea in between Asia and India. And then these folds were created, and Himalayas are the folded mountains. Just imagine that India pushing northwards, jamming against Asia to buckle its crust and form the Himalayas. South America drifting off to join North America. South America and North America were separate once upon a time. But South America started drifting towards north and it joined with North America, opening up a Drake passage to create a cold circumpolar current. And there's a Drake passage is created where South America and North America are joined, and that is the cause of circumpolar current, keeping Antarctica frigid. And because of that, Antarctica remains frigid, means it is frozen all the time, desolate, and at the bottom of the world. That is why I say Antarctica is at the bottom of the world. For a sun worshipping South Indian like myself, she was a South Indian living in Madras, the author, who is worshipping sun. 2 weeks in a place where 90% of the Earth's total ice volumes are stored is a chilling prospect. Imagine that a person who is worshipping sun every day sees the sunrise and worships it. If such a person has to be in Antarctica, where everything is frozen and 90% of the Earth's total ice volumes are stored in Antarctica, if a person has to be there, it is a chilling prospect, not just for circulatory and metabolic functions. Naturally, the metabolic functions of a person has to adjust in such kind of an atmosphere, but not only for that circulatory and metabolic function, but also for the imagination. that here what we see and what we see in Antarctica is altogether beyond imagination. It's a chilling prospect. It's like walking into a giant ping pong ball devoid of any human markers. Now, this Antarctica is a giant ping pong ball, and there are no human markers, means anything that human beings have created is not to be found there. Like no trees, no billboards, buildings, nothing is there. You lose all earthly sense of perspective and time here. Now, here, when the sun rises and it is morning, we have some sense of time, that what time it must be. That sense of time is lost when you go to Antarctica. You lose all earthly sense of perspective and time in Antarctica. The visual scale ranges from the microscopic to the mighty. Whatever you can see is from the smallest thing which can be seen through a microscope to something that is very big, very huge, mighty, strong. Midges and mites to blue whales and icebergs as big as countries. Now, midges and mites, you can see small creatures, and you can also see blue whales, which are very huge, and you can also see icebergs, which are as big as countries. The largest recorded was the size of Belgium. One iceberg was as big as Belgium. Days go and on in surreal 24 hours astral summer light and an ubiquitous silence. The silence which is not broken by any kind of noise, interrupted only by the occasional avalanche or cleaving ice sheet. When the ice sheets move from one place to another, where they shift, they make some noise. That is the only thing that would interrupt the ubiquitous silence of the Antarctica. Cons- Consecrates the place, and that silence say consecrates the place, surrounds the place. It's an immersion that will force you to place yourself in the context of the earth's geological history. This is such kind of an experience that will force you to place yourself in the context of the earth's geological history. You will associate yourself with the geological history of the earth. And for humans, the prognosis isn't good. When you do that, it doesn't seem to be good. And what is the human impact? Human civilizations have been around for a, a paltry 12,000 years, barely a few seconds on the geological clock. In the geological clock, the existence of humans on the earth is 12,000 years, and 12,000 years is an insignificant or a very small period. You can say that few seconds of a day. That much is the existence of human beings on this in the geological clock of the earth. In that short amount of time, we have managed to create quite a ruckus, etching our dominance over nature with our villages, towns, cities, magnetics, say mega cities. Now, in this 12,000 years, this is what we have done. We have tried to dominate nature, and we have created villages, towns, cities, mega cities. The rapid increase of human population has left us battling with other species for limited resources. As the population of human beings is increasing, what really happens is that there are some other species on the earth also. They are in search of resources. Now, human beings have proved themselves to be stronger, so the other species that cannot compete with human beings have become extinct. And the unmitigated burning of fossil fuels has now created a blanket of carbon dioxide around the world. One other change that has happened is so much population is there, fossil fuel, that is crude oil, is being taken out from the earth crust, and we are burning that and creating a blanket of carbon dioxide around the world, which is slowly but surely increasing the average global temperature. Climate change is one of the most hotly contested environmental debates of our time. In this time, the most hotly contested debates are those of environment. Will the West Antarctic ice sheet melt entirely? The Antarctic ice sheet is likely to melt. Is it going to melt or not? Entirely, totally? That is a debatable question. Will the Gulf Stream ocean current be disrupted? The Gulf Stream ocean current is being disrupted to a certain extent. Will it be disrupted or not? That is a question, a debatable question. Will it be the end of the world as we know it? Now, if all these things happen, then the world will come to an end. If the temperature increases and the ice sheets in the West Antarctica melt, or the Gulf Stream ocean current is disrupted, then that will be the end of the earth as we know it. Maybe, maybe not. Either way, Antarctica is a crucial element in this debate. Now, Antarctica is going to play a very crucial, very decisive, important role in this debate, whether the above mentioned questions when they are debated. Not just because it's the only place in the world which has never sustained a human population and therefore remains relatively pristine in this respect. Now, Antarctica is a place where nobody has ever been, which has not been inhabited by human beings, and human population is not there. So, it is altogether different, or say relatively undisturbed by human beings. But more importantly, why Antarctica is going to play an important role, not because it is, say, a place which has not been interrupted by human beings, but more importantly, naturally, it will not be. Nobody will go to Antarctica because it is very almost impossible to live there. But in spite of that, but more importantly, Antarctica is going to remain at the center of this question because it holds in its ice cores half million years old carbon records trapped in its layers of ice. Half million years, 1 million is 10 lakh. So 5 lakh years old carbon records are trapped in the layers of ice and the ice cores that are there in Antarctica. That is why it holds a very important uh, place when these debates are going on. If you want to study and examine the Earth's past, present, and future, Antarctica is the place to go. If you want to know about the Earth's past, present, and future, you will be able to find that from Antarctica. Students on Ice, the program I was working on, the Shokelskia, aims to do exactly this by taking high school students to the ends of the world and providing them with inspiring educational opportunities which will help them foster a new understanding and respect for our planet. Now, she had joined a program, Students on Ice, and they were going on a Russian vessel, Shokelskia, to Antarctica. The purpose of this program was to take the high school students to Antarctica and to provide them inspiring educational opportunities which will help them to understand and respect the earth. It has been in operation for 6 years now. Now, this Students on Ice program is going on for the last 6 years, headed by a Canadian, Geoff Green. Now, this program is headed by, means who is the head of the program? Geoff Green from Canada, who got tired of carting celebrities and rich curiosity seekers who could only give back in limited way. Now he tried to do this job or say conduct this program with the help of celebrities and the people who had retired, the people who were rich, the people who were curiosity seekers, but that all things did not succeed. With students on ice, he offers the future generation of policymakers a life changing experience to an age when they are ready to absorb, learn, and most importantly, act. Now, with the Students on Ice program, Geoff Green of Canada, his plan is that the future generation of policymakers will bring a life changing experience to an age where the students will be able to absorb everything that they'll be able to learn, and the most important thing is they'll be able to act on it. The reason the program has been so successful is because it's impossible to go anywhere near the South Pole and not be affected by it. If you go near the South Pole, you will be affected by it. But this program has been successful because, say, it is something impossible that they have tried. It's easy to be blaze about polar ice caps. There are polar ice caps melting while sitting in the comfort zone of our respective latitudes and longitudes. Now, in this Antarctica, what really happens is there are ice caps. These ice caps they melt. At that time, we are in our comfort zone of our respective latitude and longitude. But when you can visibly see glaciers retreating and ice shelves collapsing, you begin to realize that the threat of global warming is very real. Sitting at home, when people say that, say, the ice caps are melting, it doesn't make much difference to us because we are in our comfort zone in our respective latitudes and longitudes, and it is not directly affecting us. But if you go there and if you visualize the scene where the ice shelves are collapsing and the glaciers are retreating, then you begin to realize that the threat of the global warming is very real. Antarctica, because of a simple ecosystem and lack of biodiversity, you cannot see much diversity in the life over there, and the ecosystem is very simple there. That is why it is a perfect place to study how little changes in the environment can have big repercussions. As other lives are not there, when environment changes, what is the effect of that environmental change on Antarctica, that is, and what are the repercussions, the effects of it environmental change, that can be studied very easily and perfectly over there. Take a microscopic phytoplankton, those grasses of the sea that nourish and sustain the entire southern ocean's food chain. Now, in the Southern Ocean, the food chain is sustained and nourished by the grasses which are microscopic, and the name is phytoplankton. These single cells use the sun's energy to assimilate carbon and synthesize organic compounds in that wondrous and most important of processes called photosynthesis. Now, these grasses are one cellular. They assimilate carbon and synthesize organic compounds, and wonder in that wondrous and most important of processes called photosynthesis. In that photosynthesis process, that's what they do. Scientists warn that a further depletion in the ozone layer will affect the activities of phytoplankton. The scientists are warning that if the ozone layer uh, depletion takes place further, then this photosynthesis process of the phytoplankton will be affected. And if that is affected, what will happen? Which in turn will affect the lives of all the marine animals and birds of the region. That is the Southern Ocean. All the marine animals and birds will be affected. And the globe carbon cycle. The whole globe's carbon cycle will also be a parable of the phytoplankton. That is a great metaphor for existence. Take care of the small things, and the big things will fall into place. That is the metaphor for existence. That if you take care of small things, then the big things will fall into place. Walk on the ocean. This is the last part of the lesson. My epiphanies, but the best occurred just short of the Antarctic Circle at 65.55 degrees south. The Shokelskia had managed to wedge herself into a thick white stretch of ice between the peninsula and Tadpole Island, which was preventing us from going any further. Now, this vessel, this ship, had got stuck between the peninsula, a part that is surrounded by water on all the three sides, and the Tadpole Island, and it was not allowing this vessel to go any further. The captain decided we were going to turn around and head back north. The captain decided that they would turn around and go back to north. But before we did, we were all instructed to climb down the gangplank and walk on the ocean. But before they would do that, they were all instructed to climb down, means get down from the vessel and walk on the ocean. So there we were, all 52 of us, kitted out in Gore-Tex and glares, walking on the stark whiteness, that is the ocean, frozen ocean, that seemed to spread out forever. As far as your sight could reach, there was nothing but this ocean. Underneath our feet was a meter thick ice pack. 1 meter frozen ice was there under their feet. And underneath that, 180 meters of living, breathing salt water. Below that was salt water, living, breathing salt water. In the periphery, crab eater seals were stretching and sunning themselves in ice floes, much like stray dogs will do under the shade of a banyan tree. In the periphery, these crab eaters, now these seals, they eat crabs. The crab eater seals, they were stretching and sunning themselves on ice floes, and that is compared with the stray dogs sitting under the shade of a banyan tree. It was nothing short of a revelation. Everything does indeed connect. 9 time zones, 6 checkpoints, 3 bodies of water, and many ecospheres later, I was still wondering about the balance in play on our planet. See, all these different ecosystems that were there, time zones were there, checkpoints were there, bodies of water were there, and everywhere the beauty of was seen, and there was a balance in the beauty. How would it be if Antarctica were to become a warm place that it once used to be? Once upon a time, Antarctica was a warm place. What would happen if it again became a warm place? Will we be around to see it, or would we have gone the way of the dinosaurs? As the dinosaurs have become extinct, will we also become extinct when Antarctica becomes a place where we can live? Mammoths and woolly rhinos, dinosaurs, mammoths, and woolly rhinos have all become extinct. Will we also become extinct, or will be able to see when people will be uh, able to visit Antarctica when it becomes a warm place? Who is to say? But after spending 2 weeks with a bunch of teenagers who still have the idealism to save the world, they still believe in the ideal of saving the world. With such teenagers as I have been with them for 2 weeks, all I can say is that a lot can happen in a million years. But what a difference a day makes. Okay, thank you very much. Now go through these questions and write the answers in the fair book. Thank you.